The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is hump day in the rib.
Yep, and we got a couple of announcements for people. The first one being Congressman Kennedy and Democratic candidate for governor, Jay Gonzalez, are going to be in Fall River today. They're here at Bristol Community College right now, but they will be at Barceló's Bakery on Bedford Street at 2 o'clock to 3:15 to meet the voters. I wonder how a Portuguese bakery is going to handle a Latino candidate. They probably have similar desserts.
Probably, yeah.
But if you want to go out and meet them, Bedford Street from 2 to 3:15, and you can ask your questions and see where they stand.
Remember, they can always find Fall River in an election year.
Yeah, they always find them in an election year.
They can always find their way to Fall River, and we're closing in on November rapidly. So.
Rapidly closing in on that. So,
yeah. So they're all going to show up in Fall River for their semi-annual visit. You know.
Yep. And of course, everyone's going to get a message from the president today.
Yeah.
At 2:18, you can expect that your smartphone, like this, will receive a text message and an alert tone from the wireless emergency alert system.
Yep, and for anybody who thought they could get away from the incessant harassment of a smartphone that doesn't have a smartphone, they're going to send this thing out over the television too.
Exactly.
So they're going to interrupt your TV programming too. So you can't get away from it.
Yep. And it's beginning at 2:18 on all cell phones and 2:20 p.m. on all TV and radio stations. This is the test backup date that was previously postponed due to response efforts to Hurricane Florence. So, if you're getting that screechy tone on your phone or on your TV screen, this is a test, and it will say it in the message. This is a test. So, it'll be very interesting. Well, the HUD stuck it to Fall River again.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's because the Fall River Housing Authority didn't do their job.
Again.
So this is why. So the Fall River Housing Authority has been informed by the Housing and Urban Development, the federal HUD, that they must allow young people, young disabled people, and disabled is classified as anyone with a physical or mental impairment, and that includes
you know what is now classified as a
substance abuse.
Substance abuse. So there you go, elderly. They didn't do their job to protect you, and now you're going to end up with mixed residencies. Thank you very much. They all got their paychecks though, and the interim director is getting his salary too. But who cares about the people? Nobody.
Yep.
All they care about is your tax dollars. Nobody.
This is going to
cares.
affect Doolin Apartments, where I know we have a contingency of viewers.
Yeah.
The Doolin Apartments and Bates Tower. So this is going to be very interesting to find out, because both of those properties are primarily elderly. Both properties have been listed as elderly.
Well, we all know this is all about politics. It's all about money, just like the big opioid crisis. It's ironic. I saw a very interesting commercial the other day. I think you've probably seen it too. It's a mandatory commercial that Robillard and some of the other tobacco industries were deemed to pay for on TV.
Yep.
And it was very interesting, because I looked at that, and and it's in print, and they're doing it verbally too. But they pointed out the fact that more people die from cigarette-related illnesses than all the deaths from opioids, murders, motor vehicle accidents combined.
Yep.
But has there ever been an attempt to eliminate cigarettes from?
Of course not.
From, it's going to be just like the opioids. Give them more, let the companies, they put on their announcement ads and they make billions of dollars. So anybody that thinks they have your best interest at heart, it's all about money. They're going to make a ton of money. They're going to make a ton of money off the opioid crisis and all their little programs, and all their friends are going to get rich. And what's going to happen to you is, just like with cigarettes, they still sell them. They still sell them to young. They keep getting it. The young people get a hold of them. Now they're talking about that, what do they call that, Juul thing?
Yes, Juul is the
they're doing that.
Cigarette.
And they said it's a transition into smoking and vaping and all this other stuff. But
and it has nicotine in it.
Yeah, who cares that we've known for what? I mean, the people who smoked in the old days, they had doctors actually making commercials for cigarettes and athletes and years ago. Then they found out, they documented the hazards of smoke. And has there ever been a massive, they've got these smoking cessation things that, I remember the city of Fall River had one a while back. Do you remember that, CJ?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, we had we had people coming around and but then it goes by the wayside. They weren't making enough money because,
Well, that was a grant program, I believe.
Yeah, and but I mean, let's face it, they should have continued it. It's probably the biggest killer, and according to that, it's the biggest killer, more than motor vehicles, more than opioids, more than everything. But again, what do? Nothing. They make it, it's only good for political traction. Yep. And nobody wants to take on a tobacco industry, And now when you take on the opioid crisis, you're taking up all the social welfare attachments that go along with it, the medical treatments and everything else that goes along with it. So like the military-industrial complex, they've woven these things into the very fabric of our economy.
But here's one of the interesting things. According to the Federal Register, which is federal law, people, you do not qualify and cannot qualify for any entitlement programs. Social Security, SSI, food stamps, welfare, if you are under the influence of drugs, narcotics. But for some reason, everyone's ignoring that. And when you go to Social Security and apply and say, oh, I'm an opioid addict, you're approved. Go in there and say you have cancer, and guess what? You got to fight them. That's 6 months to a year. But if you're a drug addict, yeah, it makes it very interesting.
And obviously, and we get back to cigarettes. Cigarettes have been proven to be more addictive than heroin.
Right.
And anybody who's had to quit the habit knows how difficult it is. But again, let's look at the bottom line. The bottom line is these people really are not. They're only interested in one thing, as we said on our first show so many years ago: follow the money.
Follow the money.
When they can begin to start making money off it, first they throw a ton of pills at you in the form of, oh, this is your brain on drugs. They do that for 5 or 6 years, and their friends get rich on that. Then they evolve because they know they're not really doing their jobs, and then they deem it a disease, and it gets interwoven with every social welfare program and every medical type of program known to man. And there's literally not billions. I'd say they're probably, over the last decade, we're in the trillions of money spent on this thing. And are we making any headway? No. I mean, this stuff started in the late 60s, early 70s, and we're nearly 50 years later, and it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. So
well, what's interesting about this decision is, according to the Housing Authority statistics, 30% of the applications received are from elderly, and 70% received are from young disabled people, which says that both of these, the Bates Building and Doolin, should have 70% disabled people, but they don't. So there's a problem there, and they're going to put them in whether people like it or not.
That's right, and
So the first time somebody gets raped or gets stolen from or have the house broken into because their neighbor's a junkie, well, guess what? It's the Housing Authority's fault.
That's right.
for not doing their job in the first place.
Not doing their job again. But then again, they all get their checks. They all get their...
And their pensions.
Yeah, and their pensions.
Especially when they're part-timers on the board.
That's right. Exactly. Well, and then, again, she reared her ugly head when we talked about the council. Are we ready to move on to the council?
Oh, yeah, we're ready.
The Chamber of Horrors has struck again. Another $5.6 million in loan orders okayed for the city. And Mary Sahadi, our financial guru, quote, we'll be able to keep it at the $10 million debt cap. We can afford it, unquote. Yeah, you can afford it, but you couldn't afford stamps to send letters out to people. You're always looking for money, and you're always looking to skim. Then, you know, wasn't it our crack financial team that admitted in front of the council that we have the worst bond rating?
No, they didn't do it. We exposed that.
Yeah, no, but then they said it.
Yeah, they
admitted it.
Yeah.
They admitted it, that our bond rating was in the toilet. It came out on some, I don't know whether
it was the
whether
Moody's
it was them
report.
or somebody in the council. But they did admit the fact that we have the worst bond rating
Right.
in the world. But we continue to just spend money like obviously they still don't understand that this city has the highest percentage of people living below the poverty level, the lowest household income, and the lowest individual income, $22,000 a year. But we can afford it. You know, I hate to tell you this, Mary, that we is not us. It's you, and you can afford it because you got a $40,000 pay raise, not a $40,000 salary, a $40,000 pay raise added to your salary.
Exactly.
Which is almost twice. It's more than the household income average in Fall River. Household. And the individual income's $22,000. So it's almost double. So you can afford it, and you have absolutely no consideration at all for the average person in Fall River, because you just keep spending money, and shame on the council again, because they always do it. We need a roof. Was there one question about the maintenance processes again in the city? All we've seen in the last couple of years is money for roofs, money for this, rebuilding schools, rebuilding everything, and all of them were in deplorable condition because of lack of maintenance. Even though, in spite of the fact that a city ordinance requires DCM to maintain all city buildings, it's in an ordinance and I have it, and also the school department, when we deal with the school department, the school department has its own maintenance department. Do you think maybe if your roof leaks, you get somebody over there right away to fix it, throw in a couple of shingles, seal it up. If you need a new roof, you have to scrimp and save to get the money to put a new roof on before, you know, a catastrophe happens and it caves in on your house and you lose half of the stuff in your house because you didn't maintain your own property. Well, guess what? We know how to pay people to maintain city property, but it never gets maintained, and there's never, ever any questions about this stuff because it's gone on and it continues to go on. How did the roof get this bad? Because they wait until it's, they had buckets at Durfee for how many years, and then when they wanted a bond, oh, look at the deplorable condition it's in. You think maybe that if you had to put buckets in a classroom that somebody should have addressed the issue maybe 10 years ago where we could have got away with it by spending a lot less money? No, because remember, people, they do not care about money because it's not them. They're not paying. You know, they get their $40,000 pay raise, and you know, their taxes go up, and they can pay it. And the poor people who are suffering, the elderly, some of them who are hanging onto their houses by a bare thread, have to take debt overrides, more bonding. You know, it's nice to be government because government always is the last bastion of total incompetency. You know, as my friend Milton Friedman said, if you give them the Sahara Desert, they'll run out of sand in 5 years. Because the reality is that they, like our Congress and our Senate, they don't live by the same rules we do. because it's not their money. The more they spend, the more they get, because they take it from you. It's not their money. And they have no consideration. Try to do what Fall River is doing in your own home. What we're doing is we're kicking the can down the road. We're running up credit cards, which are bonds in that form. Go out and get 10 or 15 credit cards with tremendous interest. Max them all out and keep applying. Then go try to get a home loan or a car loan and see what happens. Nobody will give you any more money. Banks won't give you money. They won't give you another credit card. You got $65,000, $100,000 in credit card debts, and you're paying a bare minimum. You'd have to live to be about $650 if you never charged again to pay your credit card debt off. Try to get more money from a bank, from an auto dealership, from anywhere. Try to get a loan at 1.9% or 2 point, the ones they had low interest. You can't. This is Fall River. We're your friend who's maxed out all the credit cards, but the difference is your friend can't get any more money. Fall River just keeps grinding. We don't care what the interest rate is. We don't care if we're $750 million in debt. We don't care. We just keep raising your taxes and raising your fees until you can't afford it anymore, and then you're the victim. We can cry about the retirement system, and the retirement system is problematic. Why? Not because of the people in the system. They take their retirement out of their check. They pay what they're required to pay. It's cities and towns that don't. They skim off the top. They pay less than they should pay. And the system's unfunded liability suffers. We're seeing that in Fall River. They're always looking for money. And as a matter of fact, the mayor of the city of Fall River tried to replace the 5th member of the retirement board. He was going to get rid of him. Actually, he was going to send them a letter saying thank you for your service so he could appoint a swing vote. But then it was explained to him that he doesn't make that appointment. What do you think he wanted that appointment for? So they could not give retirees their COLAs, so they could get a 3-2 vote on the board to put in less money than they should be putting in, like they did from 02 to 12, which dropped the retirement system into the toilet to be one of the lowest funded retirement systems in the state. Why? Because between 02 and 12, this city put in $89 million less into the retirement fund than New Bedford did. And they allowed it to happen. Well, it's not going to happen now, but he actually tried to. That would not have come out had we known and got informed about that at a board meeting. And I don't know if they pulled the letter or not, but he was going to try to get a 3rd vote. That's why that 5th person is supposed to be neutral. They're never semi-neutral. But I will remind all you retirees out there that for 2 consecutive years, the vote to get your COLA was 3-2, with the two city representatives voting no. You can't get your $360 increase, less than $1 a day. You cannot do that. How dare you work 40 years and 30 years and get $360 when your health care is going up, your prescription drugs. But Mary Sahadi can get a $40,000 pay raise. Kathy Ann Viveris can get a $23,000 pay raise. He can make jobs for his friends that pay $50,000, $60,000.
And bury bodies in the wrong graves.
Yeah, exactly. But how dare you, somebody who actually worked for a living, expect a little consideration for what you gave to this city, your entire adult life working. But hey, then again, you wonder why we always say stay angry? We're in a constant state of anger here because we see this stuff going on. And I'm just waiting for the day that we get some people that run for council that say we're going to be fiscally responsible. We're not going to continue to kick this can down the road. let's stop the madness, but it never does, because let's see what happens in the next election, because this is another loan order. Who cares?
You're asking for too much.
Who cares? Who cares about it? Let's see next month what loan order they come up with. What's next, CJ? I don't know. Maybe the diamond thing's coming.
Thing's coming.
That's on the horizon.
That would be another debt exclusion.
Here comes diamond, and then we'll see what other building is falling into disrepair. We have to pay.
As it is, Fall River's paying for everything for diamond.
Yeah. Well, for the evacuation.
The evacuation chairs, they paid for all of it. Why didn't Westport and Somerset and Swansea?
Yeah, the people who said it's a regional school.
It's a regional school.
And who was on that? And who was for? Kathy Ann.
Yeah.
Well, on a board. She was there, and the city said, well, we're going to pick up the whole tab. And as I said on a previous show, one representative who's always, in my opinion, always tried to do the right thing and it was watching out for the people, Dan Robillard, who did that on a charter commission. He was the lone person who disagreed with that entire process, which we now know was an exercise in futility and a total sham. But when that came up, he made a motion to pay, instead of the entire $11,000, $6,000, because Fall River is not the only. Obviously we have the largest school population there, but we still are not the only population.
That's right.
He made a motion to cut it down to $6,000 and let the other people pick up the other $5,000, which is, I think was a prudent and correct motion. Failed. And then, with him being the only dissenting vote, they approved to pick up the whole tab for the chairs. So Somerset, Westport, all the people who go to the regional schools, Dighton, they're not going to pay a dime for that. So, hey, what the hell? It's only Fall River people's money, Even though every one of those cities and towns has a higher household income average and far fewer people living below the poverty level, but nobody cares. They don't care. They just keep going in two different directions. They get in front of council and whine all the time. But then anytime they want money, the first thing out of his mouth is, as Mary Sahadi put it so succinctly, we can afford it. No, we can't. No, we can't. If somebody told me that I'd never have to pay a credit card again, and I could get 7,000 credit cards and just keep getting them and basically never paying anything except the minimum payment, like we only pay the interest on a lot of our bonds, not the principal. I mean, okay. So then when you croak and they're throwing dirt on you, you can yell from the coffin, you're not going to get your money back, and you're going to eat it. But we're never going to get our tax money back. And
hopefully you're buried in the right grave.
That's right. Another appointee with no credentials burying somebody. But I just every time they take a loan on it, I know I go bananas. But the fact is, we should be going bananas because, look,
it's our money.
It's our money. It's your money. It's not you. She can afford it. Yeah, you probably can, Mary, because you got a $40,000 pay raise. So sure you can afford it. But then again, who are we? We're just the people who have to pay everything. We pay for all the freight, and they tell us that we can afford it, even though we know we can't.
That's right. Well, they're going to build 12 more market rate apartments in downtown Fall River.
Just what we need.
Just what we need.
Just what we need.
But, in all fairness, the market rate apartments are filling up. I mean, this guy here, Stephen Chaletsky, he owns the Masonic Temple Apartments, which is right next door to where he wants to put these 12 new apartments, and he's got a waiting list for those market rate housing, those market rate apartments. So obviously something's working if market rate housing is taking off so much.
Well, I hate to be a contrarian here, but I want to see the stats, and I want to see the incomes because and the other quote is, he really loves the area, unquote. Well, you may need this head examined, but said attorney Arthur Frank. Hey, there's a name we haven't heard in a while, huh? Huh? Arthur Frank. So more market rate housing for in a city that, I don't know like I said, I don't know who would come here.
And here's the rest of the. Got to say the rest of the quote from Arthur Frank. He said the city has buildings with great bones. He can charge a fair rent and make money.
Yeah.
At least he's honest.
Yeah, a fair rent. Well, we'll see how fair that is. But
yeah. And the building that they want to convert is a 3-story former office block that is attached to a 4-story Masonic temple at 150 North Main Street. The Masonic temple contains 31 market rate units that are full and have a waiting list, according to Chaletsky. His company purchased the building next door when it bought the Masonic temple in 2016 for $2.2 million.
And who
Downtown Properties.
And who did they buy it from?
I don't know who that property was. I know that the Masonic temple building was bought from the Masonic Temple Associates.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean the building. I know that actually that was one of the first buildings Karam bought when he began his ascension to become, a millionaire. That he bought a building on North Main Street. I'm wondering if any of those buildings were from that. But hey, like I said, more market rate housing for a city that ranks, first in every negative category and last in virtually every positive. And I don't know, if you got people moving in, I'd like to see the stats, because I know we've built an awful lot of market rate housing, and I see a lot of houses up for sale. Now people are still flying out of Fall River any time they can, and they're taking a hit on their houses, because as we were told, we have the worst housing market in the state.
Yep.
So.
Well, this is the way it goes in Fall River. Hey, we got 6 people charged with illegal gaming.
Yeah.
They're doing the Leo Pelletier move.
Yep. The laundering of illegal gambling proceeds. Enabled the laundering of illegal gambling proceeds.
A series of raids conducted in May and early June by the state police dismantled the criminal enterprise and removed the machines from the host establishments. In total, several dozen machines and more than $140,000 in cash was recovered. Those charged include Clifford Wilson, 56 of Dighton, Diodato Faria, 68 of Fall River, John Camara, 59 of Somerset.
No relation.
No relation. Anton Oliveira, 75 of Fall River. Natasira Texera, 44 of Fall River. Mario Texera, 52 of Fall River. And the company Televent Inc. in Swansea was charged on a single count of keeping a place for registering bets, unlawful operation of gaming device, money laundering, and 3 counts of a conspiracy. The individuals will be arraigned in Bristol County Superior Court at a later date. And from what I understand, the Attorney General's office, because we had posted this earlier this week when Maura Healey sent us the press release, she's got this open to find and charge more people. So it's going to be interesting to see how much more comes out of the woodwork. But this is the Leo Pelletier move.
Yeah.
Remember when he had the gaming machines on Stafford Road?
Yeah. Yeah, he got, and they had that, that was a big controversy, but then again, look, comes out unscathed. So illegal gambling, and I don't know, I mean.
Well, the one.
Now you got a casino 10 minutes up the road where you can actually play something that's actually monitored. I'm not sure those slot machines pay off a lot.
Well, here's the kicker. Those 6 people that got charged, now they can run for office at Fall River and get elected.
That's right. True, absolutely. And
especially if they're convicted.
That's And in Boston, I guess Senator Jeff Flake, very appropriate name, I may add, calls for a real investigation of Kavanaugh. Oh God, this is it's just nuts. Now, he threw an ice cube. I think we should give him the death penalty for that. Isn't that a capital offense?
Yeah, I think so.
He said he threw ice at somebody.
Yeah, I think they break out the chair for that.
I'll tell you what, they're getting really desperate because there have been no proof of nothing, and they just never let. Oh, by the way, did you see that thing was posted on Facebook? Maria Shriver saying how terrifying it was to see a picture of Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Being angry, so you can't get angry anymore. And I guess the response to that was like, you're terrified by that. Why don't you ask your uncle if you think having somebody drowning in your back seat and leaving was more terrifying to that woman?
Well, no, it wasn't terrifying for him because he left.
That's right. So, hey, stay angry. Remember, if you have any ideas for bonds, contact your city council. I'm sure they'll approve them.
See you on Friday, everybody. Stay angry.